name is KJ, and you're listening to the Supernatural Opinions podcast, where some things in this world are supernatural. My pronouns are she, they, and this is the podcast where I talk to my fellow Supernatural fans about Supernatural, and we share our Supernatural opinions. Today we're recapping Season 2, Episode 10, Hunted, which originally aired on January 11, 2007, and here help me do that are my guests of the week, Meredith, Jordan, and Jenn. Meredith, remind everyone who you are.
Hello, I'm Meredith. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm sure my brain will wake up at some point during recording.
Yeah, probably. And Jordan, remind everyone who you are.
Hi, I am Jordan at PsychicChick21 on the TikTok, and I have the pronouns of she and her.
Amazing. And Jenn, remind everyone who you are.
Hi, I'm Jenn. She and her are my pronouns, and I'm sick right now. So, we're doing our best.
Yeah, you are here, and that is enough.
Thanks.
This week's episode will contain spoilers for this episode and may reference previous episodes, but won't contain spoilers for later episodes of Supernatural. And before we get too far past this point in the episode, I just wanted to say that I covered this episode for Jar Fix the Podcast, which might be renamed shortly after this episode comes out, hosted by Abigail. Abigail has rebranded since this episode was recorded, and their show is now called Saving People Clearing Things. So that's where you should be looking if you want to hear that episode where Abigail and I discuss this episode through the theme of trauma, which was startlingly, but also at the same time, unsurprisingly easy. They make such a good show, and we had a great time. So I really encourage you guys to try that podcast out as well. And specifically, if you like this podcast, maybe start with that episode. And I've been on a few others as well. This week's episode is titled Hunted, and that's a reference to, I think, just the events of the episode. I couldn't find a cultural reference.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, hunted is not a lot to go on. It's too common of a word.
This is the plot.
This week's episode was written by Raelle Tucker and directed by Rachel Talalay. I think I'm saying that right. Raelle Tucker is one of our original writers. This is her 6th episode of Supernatural. Her most recent one before this was Season 2, Episode 4, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. So this was, very much a similar vibe, to be honest. Rachel Talalay has been directing since 1991, when she directed the 6th Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Since then, she's had a multitude of projects, including 4 episodes of Ally McBeal, 7 Doctor Who, 4 episodes of Riverdale, and 5 episodes of The Flash. I'm actually surprised that this is her only time directing Supernatural.
Doctor Who, I gotta look her up.
Yeah, she did 7 episodes. I didn't write down, what era they would have been from, but they weren't too long ago.
Cool.
And I guess we're just gonna get right into the recap. I have a lot to say about this episode because I've already covered it once before and I came up with new things this time around. But this episode opens with someone actually going to therapy and then immediately being punished for it because the show hates therapy.
But at least the song choice was cool.
Yes, it was.
The opening scene was amazing.
It was White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane, which is just a great vibe.
I just love how it builds slowly over the session and everything gets more intense.
This guy is the patient. His name is Scott, and just over a year ago, he developed the powers to electrocute things with his hands. He's another special child. And Scott, unfortunately, murdered his neighbor's cat, and he thinks about murdering his therapist. He, challenges him to shake his hand.
What the hell, Scott?
The therapist wisely chooses not to shake Scott's hand. And we quickly find out what the hell Scott, because Scott is being visited by a yellow-eyed man in his dreams who is encouraging him to do terrible things with his powers because of plans that are laid out for Scott. We know that that's the yellow-eyed demon. That is what the hell.
Yeah, that's a lot of hell.
It's actually hell. And then Scott is walking to his car where he is brutally stabbed, and we don't see who stabs him, but we find out by the end of the episode.
A moment of silence for all his lost potential.
Yeah, as a cat murdering, electrifying human being / demon.
I would have watched that.
There's the title card, and then we're immediately picking up with the boys where we left them last week, down by the water, and Dean's in the process of revealing John's stupid secret. John told Dean to watch out for Sam, take care of him, but this time he also said that Dean had to save Sam above all else, and if he can't save Sam, he might have to kill him.
Fuck John Winchester!
Fuck John Winchester. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're bringing it back.
Always.
Bring it back like a mantra.
Sam's reaction is about as ideal as you could honestly hope for in this situation. He says, what the hell does that mean? He must have had some reason for saying that, right? Those are valid questions, and he's what I would call, an appropriate, almost, on the low end of, emotions. in that initial moment. Like, he gets there, but...
If you just started screaming right off the bat, I would get it.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, this is, like, he doesn't start out yelling, and honestly, like, that's really, like, some good self-control, if I'm honest.
Especially from a Winchester.
Yeah. Sam then gets a little bit louder. He wants to know every detail of the conversation with John. He's upset that Dean has been keeping this from him, which I, again, think is totally a valid response. I've mentioned a few times about the traumatic impact of this moment, but now that we're here, let's break down the secondary trauma of the secret on top of John dying. So here, let's all take a moment. So John dies, which is traumatic on the boys. Obviously, that's their father, and they become orphans. Immediately before John's death, he tells Dean this secret, which burdens Dean with responsibility for Sam's physical well-being, as well as Sam's morality. Dean's used to taking care of Sam physically, but morality has historically not been something that Sam has needed someone else to chart for him.
Well, yeah.
This also divided the boys, as Dean's guilt and fear and worry could not be shared with Sam, as they both struggled to grieve John separately from one another. Couldn't talk to Sam about what this other issue was that he was having besides just missing their father. Isolated them from each other. Sam is also now being hit with the realization that not only did he never get to say goodbye or reconcile with John, but John died believing that he either was or had the potential to become a monster, the thing that their family hates above all else.
So that's nice.
Yep, beautiful. And now Sam also has the added weight of the secret put on him that Dean's been carrying, and the feeling that he was betrayed by Dean, whom he trusts more than anyone else in the world. So, fuck John Winchester.
The mental health section is going to be great.
It's real bad. Sam wants to dive into researching what is going on with the special children.
I thought you were going to say Sam wants to die, and I thought, well, that's accurate.
I mean, not quite yet.
Not yet. We'll get there. Don't worry.
Dean wants to lay low and make sure something, but Sam does not let Dean say what he'll be preventing or ensuring Sam from being, because Sam suggests for himself that he might become evil or some kind of killer. And those were direct quotations.
I mean, he's already kind of a killer, so evil killer is what we're leaning towards, I guess.
Yeah. Sam then says, I think the first thing that I would consider to be a little bit out of pocket, like so far Sam's been pretty reasonable in his reactions, and he says, geez, if you're not careful, you will have to waste me, Dean. And I think that's a little bit much. I get that Sam's emotional, and he is experiencing some anger and some betrayal and some confusion, and he's scared, but that's a little over the line, I will say. Dean says he never said that he would do it. We just saw last week that Dean is not capable of doing it. But let's call back, I can't even believe I'm saying this. Let's call back to our analysis of the episode Bugs.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, my favorite.
What?
We know that Dean has spent a lot of energy trying to maintain control of himself and Sam to navigate John's abusive behaviors. And even though John's dead, Dean has been holding all of this in and the secret to keep that going, and now everything is just slipping out of Dean's control. He says that things are spinning out of control, but literally nothing has changed that wasn't changed 5 minutes ago before Sam knew. Like, nothing has changed except for that Sam knows, but Dean immediately feels like 100% less in control of the situation.
That's interesting that you say that. I kind of wonder why he suddenly has that shift then.
I think it's just because once it's on Sam, it's not just him. He can't control how Sam feels about things, and he knows it.
Yeah.
Dean says that they're going to lay low, and it comes out as an order, which Sam just balks at being ordered around. So Dean switches to begging, which is much more effective. Sam, relents, but then we immediately cut to Sam slipping out in the middle of the night and stealing a car and taking off without Dean, firmly in the driver's seat of that car. You know that we only see Sam driving when Sam's taking control of his own story. We then get a scene of Sam with a piece of stationery with an address on it. He approaches a house, breaks in, trips a tripwire, and explodes. Podcast over. We can all go home. We're done here.
One of them's dead. We know what's happening after this.
Wow, crazy.
Never mind. It's a dream prophecy / nightmare from a new character that we've never met before, and we're not going to talk about it right now.
That's good.
No, but can we mention how come no supernatural character, a female supernatural character, wears normal pajamas to bed?
Right.
She was in a little Victoria's Secret negligee.
Right? If they wear a t-shirt, they're wearing just panties with the t-shirt, and we
and
wear
a push-up bra.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Jess from Pilot, I remember you.
To be fair, Sam and Dean wear jeans to bed half the time.
Okay, they're insane. These girls are supposed to be
they are
most
unwell.
I will give you guys that. Anyway, where Sam actually goes is the Roadhouse. Ellen sees Sam and she's like, Dean's been calling. He's super worried about you. And Sam's like, I figured. Because of course he did. Sam declines to open up to Ellen about what's going on between them. And we find out that Jo has left the Roadhouse to go hunting on her own, which is going to be integral to my theory later. People might be mad at me by the end of this episode, and I've just gotten used to that idea.
That's okay.
Sam is expecting Ellen to be mad at him for Jo's rebellious behavior, and wow, I had a thought about that and what that means for Sam's childhood, because we all know who John blamed when Sam was rebellious, and it was not Sam, it was Dean. So of course Sam expects that Ellen's gonna be mad at him.
Yes, but the difference is that Ellen is a mostly reasonable person.
Yeah, Ellen is like, no, none of that's your fault, and honestly, it's not really, like, even if it is John's fault, I forgave John a long time ago. He just never really forgave himself. Sam asks Ellen what happened that night, but then Ellen pulls the exact same trick that Sam just pulled on her of asking an unrelated question instead of answering the question that you don't want to answer. And Sam says he's here for help, and specifically help from Ash. Like, he's talking to Ellen, but like really he wants to talk to Ash.
We all want to talk to Ash.
Yeah, honestly. Even though they know not all of the psychics had nursery fires, some of them did, and so they might as well start there and find as many as they can that way. Ash returns in record time. And he's like, there's only 4 people in the whole country that fit the profile of being born in 1983, the mother with the nursery fire, 6-month birthday, all of them. And they are Sam Winchester, Max Miller from season 1, Andy Gallagher.
Certified legend.
Yeah, we love
Hell
Andy.
yeah.
And Scott Carey. Obviously, Scott is the only one that we don't know, so that's who we're interested in.
And we won't get the chance to know him.
Yeah, we're not going to get the chance because Scott is the dude from who went to therapy, and he just died a month ago, as we saw in the opening scene, and his murder has gone unsolved.
Sorry, Scott, you deserved better.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna solve it, but it's gonna go mostly unsolved. Ash picks up and drinks from Sam's discarded beer. Like, Sam puts his beer down and he's about to leave, and Ash picks it up and drinks from
It's like, can't let that go to waste.
Which again makes me wonder.
Yeah, does he do that for all the drinks that get ordered at Ellen's bar?
I feel like I said this
want that
one of
so
the last
badly.
times that we saw Ash, of like, does Ash have enough? Like, if I lived at a bar, I would have a beer allowance in my rent agreement. Like,
But
I would
also,
pay
like,
extra.
the image of Ash being, like, the dog that eats the table scraps is just really funny to me.
And I did also want to note that the way that Ash behaves with Sam versus how he behaves with Dean is exactly the same, but the way that Sam reacts to Ash behaving that way versus the way that Dean reacts is the difference. Like, Dean and Ash don't interact in this episode, but I still have to make it about Dean and Ash.
That's okay. We'll let you.
I agree with KJ. I'm seconding you, KJ. I speak your truth. I see you, okay?
I'm so glad that I have support on this.
Don't worry, we all support you.
Ellen stops Sam and's like, I have to call Dean and let him know where you are. Like, he's very worried about you. And that's such a mom thing, to be like, I need to call your mom and, like, tell her you're okay. Because she knows how mom-coded Dean is.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's also a worried mom, so she's also projecting a little bit. And Sam says, Dean means well, but he can't protect Sam from who he really is, which Ellen is gonna twist later on in this episode. And Sam leaves anyways. Sam pretends to be a high school friend of Scott and goes to talk to Scott's poor father, who is grieving his son. Scott was having a rough time. He was having nightmares and headaches for about a year and isolating himself. And Sam's like, well, can I, like, see his room? And at first it looks like pretty normal. Sam gets the name of Scott's psychiatrist off the bottle of pills.
Pocket some Sannies for later.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody needs some, like, stolen Xanax, it is Sam Winchester.
Probably, yeah.
Scott's not gonna use it.
Yeah. PSA, though, you know, don't steal people's medications.
That is very true.
Even if they're
don't
dead,
do drugs.
under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, and also, like, give them back to the pharmacy. Don't, like, dump them or, like, flush them. Like, dispose of them responsibly. Take them back to the pharmacy. This has been your PSA.
See, this is an educational
Very true.
podcast.
Sam opens up Scott's closet and finds that the back of the closet, Scott has wallpapered with yellow eyes. Big red flag.
Crazy girl moment. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta start putting things in the back of my closet. That way, when I die under mysterious circumstances, I'll leave a little